In the world of acting, Law and Order roles are considered especially meaningful. In New York City, the dedicated actors who take on these memorable parts are members of an elite squad known as the Special Victims Unit guest stars. These are their stories.
Well, my
character beats your character.
My character was a lady of the night.
Oh, I was a porn star.
I was a prostitute. So that was great. That honestly was like a dream come true because every New York actor wants to be on that show. And it's like if you were on that show, you felt like you made it in some sort of weird way. You felt like you were a real actor. And so even if it was small, you know, whatever happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. That was my line.
You said it like that too?
Oh, no, I didn't say it like that. Okay. I said, whatever happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, baby.
Oh, hey, whoa.
Whatever happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
That makes you uncomfortable, doesn't it?
Wow.
I actually did 2 of them. At first, I was an attorney with bad intentions and a son who was guilty who I was trying to protect. I remember the experience being great. I also remember doing a show not too long ago, and I don't want to go into too much detail, but it was never aired because it was ripped from a headline that was, shall we say, all of a sudden became political by virtue of the election. And then it never made it. And I don't know that it ever will. Maybe it will, but anyway, it was fun to do.
I was a straight porn guy, right?
Oh,
straight
wow.
porn guy, but it was weird because I had evidence of not doing straight porn.
Wow.
That's about, I don't know how PC, you know, what the rating of this
TV
program.
guy.
Yeah, TV guy it is. But it was, yeah.
This will all be on the cutting room floor.
It was a, you know, who done that sort of episode.
Who did that?
Who did that to you? And I wouldn't say because I was protecting my daughter who had leukemia or something.
God.
I don't know. I was being a good father.
Thank God for comedy, huh?
And then, I shortly after that, like a month later, I was a detective on NYPD Blue. So I was busting people like me on SVU.
I did. 2 different characters. I was like, guys, is it weird that I literally was on playing a different? They're like, no, they'll never recognize you. They'll never notice. Well, I'll tell you, I remember I was a pretty young actor, fairly green, and I played it was a big role, and I had this one scene where I had a gun in my head, and I was gonna shoot myself, and I was on drugs, and I remember like the actor opposite me, Chris Maloney. It was his coverage, he did a great job, and I remember then it was my coverage, and he was really giving me a lot of emotion. He was really working hard, and I remember saying to him, hey man, thank you so much for, giving me so much emotion off camera. And he said, I'm only as good as you are in the scene. If you're not good in the scene, it's not gonna work for me either. And I thought that was a really interesting thing. And I kind of took that and learned that it's important to be there for another actor because you're only as good as the person opposite you.
Were you a good guy or a bad guy?
I was a good guy. No, I was an attorney.
Oh, well.
Sorry, attorneys, that came out wrong. That came out way wrong. I was kind of a smarmy guy, now that I remember correctly. I was an attorney dating one of the other characters on that show. I had a great experience on that show. I believe that Law & Order SVU, along with Law & Order, just only shot from 11 at night to 4 in the morning. So all my memories of it are bleary-eyed, just people just wiped out.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved those experiences because they definitely paid the bills.
I heard a story, I don't know if it's true, about the original Law & Order with Jerry Orbach.
Yeah.
If you were a guest, you were?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, I have to ask you.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with Jerry Orbach.
Yeah.
But that if you didn't know your lines, right?
Really?
I heard that because those guys are going through 10 pages a day or whatever, and guest stars would come in and they'd be like, if you don't know your lines, hit the road.
What did you do on Law & Order SVU?
I played 2 different characters, but the one that...
Wait, in the same show? Or you did 2 different episodes?
2 different episodes. I played 2 different, which doesn't happen very much.
They cast you twice in different roles.
Yeah, they were running out of actors.
They have
I was
completely
the last
run out.
one that they could
You were the last actor in New
find.
York
that was
that hasn't done the show.
We got to do him again.
What were the 2 characters?
So my son had been killed.
Oh, okay.
And it wasn't a very happy story. This is the story that I remember. It's like being in the courtroom, and I had kind of a long scene, and I had learned it kind of, and I figured, I'll just tighten it up between when I get in makeup and hair, we got costume and wardrobe. I got an hour and a half something. So I'm in there doing a rehearsal. Chris Maloney's laying back and he's reading the paper and he's just like, Chris, all right, up, bam, delivers just like that.
And so I'm like doing my thing, and so I said, okay, we're gonna be ready in 5. And I was like, I don't have all my lines.
And then you start panicking.
And then you're, oh yeah, and I
and then
somehow
white
I
noise.
still was young enough and had enough brain cells that I couldn't learn. I learned it like,
yeah.
I brought it in and did it. But I never, ever again did I make that
Assume
mistake.
that,
No.
that
That
you
was
could learn your
the-
lines in
yeah,
a makeup trailer.
Yeah, that was a learning experience
Yes.
that stuck.
Yes, I get started on Law and Order SVU. Thank you.
I never got one.
Oh, that's a shame. I had a great time. It was
I
great.
was in New
It was a
York
good
for a
experience.
couple years too. I never got one.
That's too bad. I did.
But congrats.
Thank you. What an amazing experience. I mean, like, what an epic show. It's such an honor to be a part of a show that carries that much weight and tradition and so many rabid fans.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, when we were shooting, there were so many fans on the sidelines. It was just like, oh, I thought like, and getting to work with Ice-T was amazing. I mean, I grew up, like we all idolized him hugely back in the day, and it was just like he's like a legend. So doing scenes with him was a trip. I had to stay in the story. But he was so kind and so giving, and they all were, and they worked so hard. It's a hard show, and they pull it out of you. They're like, you better show up, ready to bring it.
Well, what was the other character you did?
Okay, so but another husband whose son was killed. And
Twice?
Yeah,
Same
yeah,
story,
it's crazy.
right?
I remember the differences. Speaking about this is because I'd had a son. The first one I was a dad.
With that, in
without
real life,
having
you didn't have a son.
having a son. And the second one was I was a dad, but had a son now. And the difference as
In
an
your
actor.
performance, because
Oh
now
my gosh,
you know.
the emotional
Yes,
connection that's
right?
there.
Didn't I
You were
say
talking
that?
about the heart that opens.
Yes.
This
now
is the longest interview.
Okay,
that
but
you've
my
ever,
question
ever-
is, why have I never been invited on to SVU and you've done 2?
Oh, well,
Just
you
asking. Probably because I've been working
constantly, you haven't had a chance.
Never been out of work.
Not
Clearly, you've been out of
available.
work so much that you did one show.
One show, and then a second. Exactly right.
Oh my goodness. I played one of the more heinous characters I've ever played on Special Victims Unit. I played a seemingly mild-mannered academic. Why is it always seemingly? Who was shipping teenage boys to himself from Western Africa. I had a big interrogation scene with Chris Maloney, just throwing the chairs on the wall and taking me by the throat and listen to me, you little, Great stuff. Great stuff.
I guest starred on the 10th season, I believe. I remember SVU being a very great set. Chris Maloney was on his way out, and I don't think anyone could have thought that it would go another 10 years. And so here we are. Mariska Hargitay is like, she's just wonderful. How do you sustain a show for 20 years and still find purpose? And I think she's done something that most people don't even think about. A lot of actors are always looking at their next thing. What do they want to do? What do they do? And I think she's a great example of really taking on something and really working to make the character as wonderful as it can possibly be and just focusing on that. And as a byproduct, it's created jobs for so many people in New York City, and it's just gone on for so long. And I don't know when it's going to end, and I think they can call their own shots.
I wasn't available to do it, and I was so bummed because Warren Light, who's run that show off and on for years, I did a incredible play of his years ago. So I never know. I'm a huge fan of it too.
Well then, this is some question for me.
Were you a victim?
Oh yes. Oh, Carol. Poor Carol.
You were Carol.
I was Carol. Carol was a victim of extreme sexual assault and watched as her fiance got murdered in front of her.
Oh boy.
Tragic. And then had to confront her assaulter?
We'll accept it.
Assaultant? the man who killed her fiance.
Assailant?
And assailant?
Or is that?
Yeah, that it was this final scene, and it turned out it was all a misunderstanding because he loved her in high school and called her to ask her to prom, but he left her a voicemail, and she never responded, and he called the wrong phone number. So it was all for naught.
Guest star?
No, I did.
I feel like everyone has.
I played a reporter who maybe had a flirtatious relationship with Ice-T's character.
Yes.
It was completely inappropriate.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm looking that up tonight.
I did not know that.
I'm watching that on the plane later with you.
Oh, well, it's interesting. I played a mentally disabled character who was accused of being a pedophiliac when he wasn't. And that was really a compelling, moment in my life because I felt a great responsibility to portray that character right. So I went to hospitals and I spoke to characters, people who actually have mental illness, and I get to hang out with them a bit, and I try to bring an authenticity to the role, and it went over well. So I just remember doing that show and feeling good that I was able to do something I don't normally do, stretch myself as an actor, and bring some humanity to people whose stories are undertold.
I played a girl who had bipolar disorder, actually, and I killed someone on accident, but I was not medicated. And then it got even more layered because the reason I didn't take my medicine was because there was a rock star who told me that medicine was wrong. So there was layers.
As they do.
Yeah,
Yes, they
and
do.
so then it got into the question of like, why do rock stars keep telling people like not to do things or do things, whatever? And it's like, whoa. But by the end of the episode, you're left with a lot of questions and answers.
I'm watching that after this. That's great.
I absolutely loved doing SVU. I mean, first of all, Mariska and I have known each other for 30 years, something like that. I mean, we met first in the late 80s. So, and I was still am a huge fan of that show. The one story I do remember, and I just had dinner with my daughter Grace last night, who's now 21. She was like 9 at the time. I said, yeah, I'm going to New York. I'm going to be on SVU. She goes, can I watch it? I said, we don't want to let you watch that show anyway. She looks at me and she says, are you the bad guy? I said, yes, I'm the bad guy. Do you kill people? I said, yes, I kill people. She goes, I've seen you kill people. And I said, not like this. Yeah, he was disgusting. He deserved what he
really?
got. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
God.
he was terrible.
Scared to watch it.
Yeah, no, he's really terrible.
So I lived in New York for 13 years, and I got my SVU credit right before I moved to LA, and I was like, yes, I'm finally official. I got my credit. And I always, my episode replays frequently, and every time I catch it, I just feel so bad for her. She's so sad. And she was kept in a cage in the basement for like 10 years. And she's just really sad. She was sad. And I rejoice that she was able to get out of her circumstance, but she breaks my heart every time.
Did you?
Oh, no, I've never been on it, but I could use a job. So if you
Yo,
can reach out to my agent.
SVU, how you doing? Can I talk to you? Hey, I'm right here. I ain't done you yet. How you doing, boo?